Welcome to the Upper Llagas Creek Flood Protection Project Environmental Sensitivity Training. This two-phase project will include the deepening and widening of channels, in-stream improvements for wildlife habitat, and revegetation, as well as the creation of underground tunnel diversion, and will provide 10 and 100-year flood protections along with creek modifications along flood-prone streams. Located in the communities of Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, this project totals 13.9 miles. This training will focus on Phase 1 of this project, which will include reaches 4, parts of 5, 7A, and a wetland mitigation site at Lake Silvera. Because these projects occur in proximity to sensitive biological and natural resources, including threatened, endangered, and fully protected species, state and federal agencies require that the work occurs under specific permit conditions. These permits include biological opinions issued by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and National Marine Fisheries Service, a California Department of Fish and Wildlife lake and streambed alteration agreement and incidental take permit, and 401 and 404 permits issued by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Environmental Protection Agency. Special status species may occur in the project area, and they are protected by state and federal law. The Federal Endangered Species Act prohibits the take of any threatened, endangered, or candidate species without special exemption. Take is defined as harass, harm, pursue, hunt, shoot, wound, kill, trap, capture, or collect, or attempt to engage in any such conduct. Harm is defined by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to include significant habitat modification or degradation that results in the injury or death of a listed species. These activities are punishable by fines of up to $100,000 and/or imprisonment for 1 year. The California Endangered Species Act is administered by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. This law prohibits the unlawful take of state-listed species. Violations are similarly punishable by fines and jail time. California Fish and Game Code also classifies a number of species as fully protected. This law, which predates the California Endangered Species Act, also prohibits the take of fully protected species except for scientific and relocation purposes. The Army Corps of Engineers regulates activities within waters of the United States pursuant to Section 404 of the Clean Water Act and Section 10 of the Rivers and Harbors Act. Section 404 of the Clean Water Act requires a permit for discharge of dredged or fill material into waters of the United States, including wetlands, rivers, and streams. Section 10 of the Rivers and Harbors Act requires a permit for any work in, over, or under navigable waters of the United States. Section 401 of the Clean Water Act requires the state to certify water quality for federal applications. In California, this is administered by state and regional water quality control boards. California Fish and Game Code Section 1600 is a lake or streambed alteration agreement. CDFW regulates activities within watercourses, lakes, and in-stream reservoirs that would alter the flow, or change or use any material from the bed, channel, or bank of any perennial, intermittent, or ephemeral river, stream, or lake. Each of these activities requires a permit. The California Endangered Species Act allows for the incidental take of state endangered and threatened species when the take is incidental to an otherwise lawful activity and is authorized by a project-specific incidental take permit or ITP, which also includes specific avoidance and minimization measures that must be followed to authorize the incidental take. A small portion of Reach 7A is covered under an issued incidental take permit for California tiger salamander, and additional environmental training will be provided before work commences in that area. Special status species with the potential to occur in the project area include California red-legged frog, South Central Coast steelhead, California tiger salamander, leaf bells vireo, nesting birds, and western pond turtle. The first species you need to familiarize yourself with is the western pond turtle. This is a species of special concern in the state of California and has been documented on site at Lake Silvera. It is a small to medium-sized turtle with a wide dark shell with yellow flecks. It is highly aquatic but is often seen basking on log debris or rocks and will travel up to a half-mile upland to lay eggs. Red-eared sliders are a common non-native turtle that also have the potential to occur on site. They are distinguished by a bright red patch on the side of the head, but if a turtle is observed, notify the biologist right away. Another protected species is the South Central Coast steelhead. It is federally listed as threatened. The steelhead is an anadromous salmonid, meaning an ocean-dwelling fish that will migrate upstream to freshwater pools and streams to spawn. Its physical appearance can vary depending on its life stage as well as its location, but it will generally have a light silvery underside with pinkish-red stripe along the side and dark spots toward its spine. The California tiger salamander is a large, stout salamander with a rounded, broad snout and black body. It is most easily distinguished by its bright yellow spots and bars. It is listed as both state and federally threatened. This salamander spends much of its time underground, seeking refuge in small mammal burrows and feeding on insects, but will emerge in the fall, traveling overland to seasonal ponds for breeding. It is most commonly found in open grassland and oak woodland habitats. The California red-legged frog is the largest native frog in North America. It is federally threatened and listed as a species of special concern in California. It is most normally found in aquatic habitat along slow-moving streams, pools, and backwaters, but has also been observed in drainages and stock ponds. Red-legged frogs vary from olive gray to orange and with black spots on the back and stripes along the legs. Adults can grow up to 5.25 inches. These frogs are most easily identified by the dorsolateral folds running from its eyes to its hips, as well as bright red patches on the hind legs. Non-native American bullfrogs also have the potential to occur on site and can look similar to the California red-legged frog. So if a frog is spotted on site, notify the biologist immediately. The least Bell's vireo is a small gray migratory songbird. It is both state and federally endangered, as well as protected under the CDFW Fish and Game Code. It will typically nest up to 1 meter or 3 feet off the ground in dense riparian vegetation, similar to that found at several sites on this project. All birds native to North America are also protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and California Fish and Game Code. Nesting birds have been protected by law since 1918. It is illegal to disturb nests or the nesting behavior of adult birds. To accomplish this, we protect all active bird nests with a no disturbance buffer. Buffers are most often marked with flagging or other markings in the field. Please do not enter a marked buffer zone without approval from the biological monitor. If you believe you have discovered a previously unknown nest, avoid work in the area and notify the biologist or foreman. Typically, birds nest between February and September in California, but nesting activity can occur outside of these months depending on environmental conditions and bird species. For example, bald eagles often begin nesting in January, and hummingbirds nest nearly year-round. A common nesting bird you may see on the project site is the killdeer. This small bird builds nests on the ground, usually selecting gravel or dirt substrates to camouflage their eggs. Their eggs are cream-colored with black speckles and are easily mistaken for rocks. If you see a killdeer sitting on the ground or acting as if it is injured, please check the area to confirm you're not disturbing a nest and notify the biologist. Could you spot the killdeer nest in the photo on the right if it weren't pointed out? They're very difficult to see, and their parents don't mind using active construction sites to build their nests. Always be aware. Several bird species common in the project area will make their nests in construction materials and equipment, including pipes, water towers, and stage material of various kinds. Always be aware of this when moving materials that have been stationary for more than a few hours or days. Look them over and check for any obvious signs of nests before moving them. Bird nests can be as simple as 2 eggs on the ground, a mud nest on an existing structure, or as elaborate as mosses or grasses woven together in a basket among grasses or twigs. Regardless of their complexity, they are all protected by state and federal laws and should not be disturbed. To reduce impact to special status species, their habitats, and other sensitive natural resources, we implement avoidance and minimization measures. These are administrative controls and best management practices that incorporate all laws and policies needed for the project to remain in compliance. Everyone is responsible for implementing the AMMs. If you observe something that you think is not consistent with the AMMs, please report it to the biologist or to your supervisor immediately. The biological monitor is responsible for reporting lack of compliance with these AMMs.
There are two types of biologists that you may see on site, the qualified biologist and the biological monitor. The qualified biologist is the only biologist that can conduct the pre-activity surveys for California red-legged frog, California tiger salamander, western pond turtle, and other special status species. Surveys must occur within 24 hours of initial ground disturbance at each work location. The biological monitor performs all other roles, such as being on site during project activities, documenting on-site compliance, overseeing implementation of conservation measures, and having stop work authority. The qualified biologist is also permitted to perform all duties of the biological monitor. CDFW, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and the Regional Water Quality Control Board have jurisdictional control over all work in sensitive riparian, wetland, and stream habitats. In order to minimize impact to sensitive resources and covered species, certain work activities will be restricted to a limited work window of May 15th to October 15th. These activities include all ground disturbing work, dewatering, and work taking place within or below stream banks and associated riparian habitat. Dewatering activities within perennial reaches will have a work window from June 15th to October 15th. Because dusk and dawn are often the times when certain covered species are most active, any earth-moving and construction activities will cease no less than 30 minutes before sunset and will not begin again prior to 30 minutes after sunset. Additionally, to the maximum extent practical, no work is allowed during a rain event. Once precipitation has passed, work may only resume after a 24-hour dry-out period.
Erosion control measures should be used throughout all phases of the project where sediment runoff from exposed slopes threatens to enter any stream channels. At no time should silt-laden runoff be allowed to enter any stream channels. To protect exposed soils from erosion during discharges, erosion control blankets, mats, or geotextiles shall be placed over any erodible surfaces. No erosion control measures containing any plastic or monofilament netting will be allowed, and any erosion control materials used within the stream channels during discharges should be removed immediately upon completion. Dust control measures should include the use of water trucks and organic tackifiers to control dust in excavation and fill areas, and covering temporary access road entrances and exits with rock. Dewatering work shall be performed in isolation from the flowing stream, consistent with the dewatering plans. Cofferdams shall use only gravel-filled bags, not sand-filled bags, and all pump intakes should be screened to prevent wildlife from entering the pump system. If a covered species is encountered and the animal is not in immediate danger, it will be allowed to leave the area on its own, and all activities with the potential to cause harm will be halted. Generally, if any wildlife is encountered on site, do not harass or handle the animal and notify the biologist. Active nests, while occupied, shall be protected during project activities with the establishment of a fence barrier or flagging surrounding the nest site. If an active nest is found, the qualified biologist shall establish an appropriate buffer. If covered species are found, they shall be excluded from entering the project site. CDF&W approved exclusion fencing shall be installed around those areas or where equipment may be stockpiled.
To protect wildlife that may enter excavation sites in the project area, all trenches or holes deeper than 6 inches must be covered or equipped with an escape ramp at the end of each workday. Escape ramps can be made of dirt, wood, or other suitable material and must be no steeper than a 2-to-1 slope. Similarly, pipes, hoses, or other structures must be covered or elevated above the ground to prevent animal entry. To prevent spills and disturbance, equipment and staging should occur outside of the stream channel and on a previously disturbed surface. Drip pans should always be placed under stationary equipment. Work within aquatic features should only be conducted during dry conditions. No equipment will be permitted in wetted areas, including ponded or wetland areas, or within the flowing stream channel below top of bank. In order to protect against runoff, all concrete waste and water from curing operations will be collected and disposed of. All grindings and asphaltic concrete waste may be temporarily stored within previously disturbed areas absent of habitat and at a minimum of 150 feet from any culvert, pond, creek, stream crossing, or other water body. Only herbicides registered with the California Department of Pesticide Regulation shall be used. All herbicides shall be applied in accordance with project plans. Precautions shall be used to avoid contact of herbicide with native and non-target plant species, and use of herbicide within banks of the stream channel shall be limited to the period between June 15th and October 15th. All substances which could be hazardous to aquatic life resulting from project-related activities shall be prevented from contaminating the soil and/or entering jurisdictional waters. Any materials placed where they may enter a stream or lake shall be removed immediately. This includes, but is not limited to, debris, soil, silt, bark, rubbish, slash, sawdust, creosote-treated wood, raw cement and concrete, asphalt, paint, and oil. All chemicals stored in staging areas should be stored in secondary containment with no less than 110% capacity. Proper storage and security shall be implemented to ensure that chemicals are not spilled or vandalized. To minimize harassment in the form of temporary habitat disturbances, all project-related vehicle traffic will be restricted to established roads, construction areas, equipment staging, storage, parking, and stockpile areas. Project-related vehicles will also observe a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit within construction areas, except on county roads and state and federal highways. Off-road traffic outside of designated and fenced project work areas will be prohibited. All construction vehicles and equipment used on site shall be well maintained and checked daily for fuel, oil, and hydraulic fluid leaks or other problems that could result in spills of toxic material. All vehicle fueling and maintenance activity shall occur at least 100 feet away from waterways and in designated staging areas unless a requested exemption is granted. Spill containment kits will be available on site at all times during construction operations and/or staging and fueling of equipment. All vehicles moving into riparian or wetland areas or adjacent to these areas shall be pressure washed prior to entry to reduce the risk of transporting vegetation, pathogens, and other invasive agents. To prevent attracting predators such as raccoons and skunks, all trash must be picked up and disposed of daily. No firearms will be allowed at the project site except for those carried by authorized security personnel or law enforcement. No pets will be permitted at the project site to avoid and minimize the potential for harassment, injury, and death of wildlife.
When rain is forecasted, all necessary erosion measures shall be implemented prior to onset. In the event of substantial precipitation, defined as 0.5 inches or more within a 24-hour period, construction activities shall cease 48 hours before the rain event. Activities that could result in sediment runoff must be limited during low rainfall, defined as less than 0.1 inches within a 24-hour period, and ceased during rainfall greater than 0.1 inch in a 24-hour period.
Construction activities may only resume after a rain event 24 hours after rain ceases, and the National Weather Service 72-hour forecast indicates a 20% or less chance of precipitation, and when site conditions are dry enough to continue work without discharging sediment or pollutants from the project site. An approved biologist must inspect the project area, equipment, and materials for listed species before work resumes. If any are observed, they shall be allowed to move from the site on their own volition or move by an approved biologist.
This concludes the Upper Llagas Creek Flood Protection Project environmental training. If you have any questions, please contact your supervisor, the on-site biological monitor, or the persons listed on this slide. Be sure to sign the tailboard form provided by the biologist to confirm that you have received the environmental training and understand the AMMs, species with potential to occur, and laws and penalties for noncompliance.